Need me to do a check? All set? Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the 2024 Board of Education Candidate Forum. My name is Jeff Kronk, and I'm the debate coordinator and also a representative tonight for the Rho Kappa Social Studies Honor Society. The students in these clubs put together an outstanding program for this evening, and I want to congratulate and thank them for their civic participation in our school and local community. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. I would like each student at this point to please stand up, turn around, and introduce yourselves to the audience. Thank you, and please be seated. At this time, I'd like to turn the program over to Ava Demaray to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Board of Education candidates, Superintendent Benigni, the Berlin High School administration, faculty, parents, community members, and town officials. Welcome to our candidate forum. As members of the Debate Club and Rho Kappa, we understand the value and importance of active citizenship in our local community, which is why we are here all tonight. The Board of Education significantly influences the decisions that impact all students, including academics, sports, the arts, music, theater, and extracurricular opportunities, to name a few. While we may not be able to vote ourselves yet in November, we are determined to be part of the process to learn more about the candidates running for these positions. I would like to thank Julia Dennis and Vanessa Deanna for attending and participating tonight. Let's give the candidates a warm round of applause. This program is not possible without the support of a lot of people. We want to thank Mr. Benigni, Mrs. Amenta, Mrs. Depre, Mr. Testroet, Mrs. Dorito, Mrs. Wilkos, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Zaitun and his staff for their assistance in putting this program together. Finally, we want to also thank the audience for joining us in person and watching from home. And now, Katie Tierney will explain the format for tonight's forum.
We would like to review the format for this evening. The forum will begin with opening statements from all candidates, followed by a series of questions, and conclude with closing statements. This format was intentionally designed to give candidates the opportunities to express their views on various educational issues. The format is not designed for audience-generated questions or for candidates to engage in a dialogue with each other. Do the candidates have any questions on this format?
Each candidate will have the opportunity to share an opening statement that is no longer than 4 minutes. After all of the opening statements are presented, we will ask a series of questions for all the candidates to answer. Candidate responses to these questions are limited to 3 minutes. Mr. Kronk will signal candidates if their allotted time has elapsed. At the end of the program, all candidates will have the opportunity to share the closing statements that are no longer than 3 minutes in length. Do the candidates have any questions or need the procedures repeated? Thank you. We will now begin with the opening statements. Ms. Dennis will go first.
All right, good evening. Thank you to the students for putting this together, as well as with Mr. Kronk. I love all of the programs you guys put together, and I really enjoy participating in them. I love that this happens every year, and I also attend some of your classes when invited, and the annual Rho Kappa induction. So I think you guys do phenomenal work, and I think you guys should be really proud of yourselves tonight for putting this on. So my name is Julia Dennis, and I am finishing my 3rd year serving on the Berlin Board of Education. my third term, I apologize. So this is my third term, and I'm seeking reelection for a fourth term. I have been in education professionally for the past 18 years. The first 9 years of my career, I worked in K-1, and the past 9 years, I teach high school, so 9 through 12 business education. I'm an advocate for education. I currently work with the State Department of Education, part of a working group, looking at the accountability index for school districts and the high school grading practices. I'm involved with the Jumpstart Financial Literacy Coalition. I advise FBLA, that's Future Business Leaders of America. I've taken an active role in our community with the science of reading legislation, and I've worked with the alternate route of certification for pre-service teachers for a number of years. So whether it's through my role in the Board of Ed or my professional roles outside of the Board of Ed, I am an advocate for public education and making sure that things are happening to provide all students with options and opportunities to be successful while they're in school and then once they leave school. I value education, and I valued continuing my education personally, and decisions that I have made on the Board of Education and my contributions. For me, it is important to continue to expand my perspective and understand the needs of our community. What the state might say could be the needs, or what the needs might be in the community I teach in may not be the needs of our community here in Berlin. So it's really important for me to constantly be expanding my perspective to make sure we're meeting the needs of all students who attend Berlin Public Schools, because it's important to me that I am making contributions as well as decisions that will have a long-term positive impact on the Berlin learners, not just in school now, but in the next 10 to 15 years to come. We need to make sure that Berlin Public Schools is a place where we are recruiting and retaining high-quality professionals that are working with the students, whether it's teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, custodial staff, secretarial staff. Every single stakeholder that works in Berlin Public Schools has an impact on our children who attend them and the children to come. And I know that we are an excellent school district, and we want to continue to be the best we possibly can. So through the decisions that are made at the table, it's important that I'm not just resting on my laurels of what I think might be best personally, but really continuing to expand my perspective, focusing on the needs of our community, the changes of our community, so we are making the best choices as it relates to funding, options, and opportunities for all. That's all.
Hi there. Oh, it's there. It's working. My name is Vanessa Deanna. My list isn't as extensive as Julia's, but that was impressive. I have been a Berlin resident for 16 years now. I have 2 kids that go to McGee. I have been a preschool teacher in the past, so I've always had a love for education, especially the preschoolers. It's my favorite age. I also was a substitute teacher in Berlin, and I've always wanted to be on the Board of Ed. I think this is a good time for me as the culture has changed a bit, and I have a little less on my plate, but now I feel like I'm gonna learn. I'm looking forward to working together with Julia and all the other members on the board to dive in, and I'm ready to work. I'm excited. Thank you.
We will now ask the candidates several questions. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to respond, and you will be signaled by Mr. Kronk when your time is up. What are the most important qualities for a member of the Board of Education, and how do you embody them? Ms. Deanna will answer first.
So there's quite a few qualities that I believe in, and I'll name a few of them. I believe the most important qualities for a member of the Board of Education include our commitment to education. I have a strong belief in the importance of quality education for all students. That's why I moved here to Berlin. We moved due to the Berlin education system. I embody this by actively supporting initiatives that improve educational standards and access. Having the ability to work effectively with diverse groups, which includes educators, parents, and community members. I have worked on the Parents Club and the PTOs, so I have been volunteering for quite a bit. I encourage open dialogue by actively listening to different perspectives and understanding the budget, by understanding budgeting and resource allocation to make the best informed decisions. I contribute my advocating for effective use of resources and prioritizing funding for critical ideas. And by embodying these qualities, I aim to contribute positively to the Board of Education and advocate for all students.
All right, thank you. So I believe, similar to what Vanessa said, having a belief in public education is imperative. And I think Board of Education members, that is a quality that is necessary, and that is something that I do in fact believe in. I think having an open mind and understanding diverse perspectives. My perspective, or the perspective that I come from or understand the most, isn't going to be the end-all be-all, so really being open-minded to different perspectives. The ability to advocate for whatever we are advocating for, and seeing the long-term impact of our choices. And civility, I think civility is critical, and it's critical to make sure that while we're at the table, we may not always agree, but being civil and bringing that piece to the table. And finally, I think another important quality is stakeholder input, respecting the input from stakeholders. That's not to say that it's just parents or just students, but also the teachers and administrators who are bringing things forward to us. They are the ones who are being impacted by a lot of the decisions. Parents and students may not necessarily understand certain decisions that are being made, and I'm not saying that student and parent voice is not welcome. It certainly is. All stakeholder input is. But when the Board of Education is making decisions that are going to directly impact the people who have to carry those out, accepting input from them is critical, and really trying to understand where they're coming from. Though I have my own professional opinion sitting at the table, I don't work in Berlin, I don't teach in Berlin, so accepting and understanding that stakeholder input allows me to stay open-minded and accept diverse perspectives.
Our next question is, what are the most pressing issues facing the school district over the next 5 years? Ms. Dennis will answer first.
Thank you. So the pressing issues facing the school district over the next 5 years. Over the past 5 years, we have learned that we have encountered a number of pressing issues that we couldn't have even anticipated. And that has begun to change the landscape of education, where educators, administrators, boards of education, parents, and students have had to learn new ways to navigate it. So, I think navigating the changes and challenges that are new to education, one being recruitment and retainment of high-quality staff. That is a major issue that school districts are facing today, and I think it's something that Berlin has been really mindful of staying on top of. I think as things change, appropriate policies that fit the need of our ever-changing community. The community does change, and the needs of the community change. I think the final piece is the financial component. We need to make sure that we are adjusting to the needs of the community, and we are continuing to maintain an excellent school district, and with that, we require adequate funding. And with that being a pressing issue, in my next 3-year term, I will continue to advocate for funding as I have in the past. That is our biggest issue, and we need to continue to advocate for it.
So to touch upon what Julia said, our budget, how can we balance our funding with the need for adequate resources for programs, staffing and facilities, student mental health, addressing the growing mental health needs of students, equity and inclusion, ensuring that all students have access to quality education regardless of their background or needs. Curriculum development, adapting curriculum to meeting the demands of changing workforce and incorporating technology effectively. Community engagement, strengthening partnerships with families and the community. This is huge for me because I'm such an active member in the community. Enhancing student support and involvement. Ensuring that these issues take place will mean that we will have to collaborate and we will require strategic planning.
In your opinion, who and how should decisions be made about what is taught in our classrooms? Ms. Deanna will answer first.
So these decisions should involve a collaborative approach, such as educators. Teachers should play a key role in curriculum development as they are the experts in understanding students' needs. Curriculum specialists, I believe that if we involve the experts, they can help us ensure that the content is up to date. Decisions should be data-driven, aimed to promote equity, and to promote that all students have access to a relevant and high-quality education.
Thank you. Who and how should be making the decisions about what's taught in the classroom? So first and foremost, any changes to what is taught in the classroom, there's a process, and the Board of Education takes that process serious. It goes through our curriculum committee. However, those teaching it, the admin, are the ones making those decisions. Then it goes to the committee, the board subcommittee, then it goes to the board. The teachers and administrators are the certified staff. They are the ones who are most familiar with what the students need, what the students are capable of, what is appropriate, what can and can't be done, what has and hasn't worked in the past. So they really should be making those decisions and then bringing it to through the process. You know, even though I am a teacher, I think it's, you know, questioning certain things that are being taught. I know how to deter back to the committee and the work that is done and the process that happens. So it's, you know, me as a board member should not be making single-handed recommendations. You know, I can vote or not vote or share my minority opinion about that, but the board should not be deciding.
Please describe how the Board of Education can involve more students in the decision-making process for how our schools function and represents their goals, interests, and values. Ms. Dennis will answer first.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So while I've been on the board, from the time I started through now, we didn't have student board representatives. And over the years, the role has evolved, and I think it's a really great addition to our board. They're non-voting members, so they do not vote. While I've been on the board, we'll back up for 1 second, but one of our favorite points in the meeting is when the student board reps share their report. I think they do a phenomenal job, and it's really evolved over the number of years we've had student board representatives. So having student voice on the board and having their presentation is really important. It also helps center and ground us in the work that we are doing, and then they provide input when they, you know, when they feel it's necessary, and we'll ask for their input. But we always have had student presentations at our meetings, and I will say during COVID, when the student presentations stopped, that's when and then when we brought them back, once we started having in-person live meetings again, that's when we realized the impact that the students have on our board meetings, and that's what makes our board meetings so much more enjoyable to sit at a table for 2.5 hours on a Monday night. You know, getting up on the stage at our last meeting and doing some math with, you know, Mr. Benigni, him realizing that I really can't divide all that well. It was a lot of fun. We were building thinking classrooms, I believe is what it's called, and it makes our meetings more fun. I think if there's other opportunities to involve students, I think having, you know, a stakeholder group with students to give input on other ways that they can get involved. But I do take advantage of opportunities to go to RoCap or go into civics classes when they invite me in to be involved, because I think drawing that bridge and making that connection is really important. So if there's other ways that the students think they would benefit from being involved, you know, we should definitely have a focus group with our student stakeholders.
I couldn't agree with more, what Julia said. That's basically what I was going to say. There are different strategies that we can implement. If you include establishing committees where students can discuss their concerns, ideas, and suggestions. This provides a great way to communicate directly with the board. Creating a platform such as surveys, forums as a way for students to express their opinions on school policies and other important issues, involving a student in discussions about curriculum changes, ensuring their interests and needs are considered. I think we can learn a lot from them. After all, they are the ones going through the motions every day and working hard. And actively seeking and valuing student input, the board can create more inclusive and responsive create a more inclusive and responsive and educational environment.
Please describe how your personal and professional experiences will impact your service as a member of the Board of Education. Ms. Deanna will answer first.
Thank you. My personal and professional experiences will influence my service on the Board of Education in several ways. I've been involved in local community initiatives, such as being on the PTO, and this particular experience has helped me understand the diverse needs and values of Berlin residents. Communication has come from working with many different people in my life. I have developed a strong analytical and problem-solving skills have helped me navigate challenges. My dedication to prioritizing students' needs and interests will help guide me to make sure that I advocate for the best outcomes for students. And the best way to fulfill this initiative is lastly, my experience in team settings has honed my ability to work collaboratively with various community members, which has fostered open communication and shared decision-making.
Thank you. And I will talk, in my opening statement, I talked a little bit about my professional and personal experiences. But as an advocate for public education and a supporter of public education, and someone who believes in the Berlin Public Schools and is proud of the work we are doing, I will continue to bring that into the work that I do as a board member and while I serve our Board of Education. As an educator, whether I am in front of my students in Newington or serving on the Berlin Board of Education, everything I do and every decision I make is for the students. And it does not matter if it's my students here, or my students there, or the students in Berlin. I bring that with me to the table, and I always consider what's best for the students. I dedicate a lot of my time, whether it's through the work I do with the State Department of Education, through Connecticut Association of Board of Education, Future Business Leaders of America, Board of Education, anything like that. It all comes together, and I do this because I care about our future generation and who the future students are going to be. They're going to be our colleagues, they're going to be our neighbors, and I want to make sure that we are creating opportunities and options for all students to be successful regardless of their path, and that is my personal philosophy around education. I do have a master's in business education, which I do bring with me to the board table when I am on the Finance and Operation Committee and looking at the numbers, even though I can't divide like we just learned from our last board meeting. I have a master's in education, a 6-year in educational leadership, and in June I just finished my doctorate in education from Northeastern University, and I focus my research on school board conflict and controversy, because it was really important for me to dedicate my research to learning more about how I can effectively serve our community. And so my education has benefited me professionally while I serve on the Board of Education. So, my philosophy in education is to continue getting educated and learning and growing so I can better serve our community.
If the school district is faced with a tight budget cycle where spending cuts are necessary, please explain the process the Board of Education would follow when making these cuts. Ms. Dennis will answer first.
So the process that we follow, we meet in our subcommittee, the Finance and Operations Committee. We hear from the superintendent and Ashley Dorsey, our district's finance director. We hear from administrators, building administrators, and then we hear what the teachers need. And we really do a needs assessment of what do we really need to maintain status quo, what do we need to continue to grow on our long-term trajectory. And then the board begins to meet, and then the board will have special meetings, and the board deliberates around what number are we going to set. And then once we set our number, we advocate for it, and we continue to advocate for it however we are allowed. There is, in fact, a lot of red tape in terms of what we can and cannot do as elected officials, with certain types of communication, because we are agents of the state, not creatures of the town. When we are sworn in as Board of Education members, we have to uphold Connecticut General Statute. But we stick with the number, and we have to make cuts because, we have to make tough decisions. But we usually do that we always do that working with the superintendent and the administration. Cuts are not always easy. They're very difficult. It's the hardest part of our job, but we have to make responsible decisions, not considering the taxpayers or what they need because their houses went up. We look at our school district, we look at our students, and we look at our goals, and we look at what we want to achieve. And then that is how we go through our process. So yes, I hope that answered the question.
So when faced with a tight budget cycle requiring spending cuts, the Board of Education should follow a systematic and transparent process. The most important one is to establish priorities, identifying the core educational priorities and programs essential for student success, and discussing which programs should be preserved. Gathering data and analyzing current spending, program effectiveness, and areas where cuts could be made without significantly impacting student outcomes, holding meetings with teachers, administrators, parents, and community members to discuss potential cuts and gather input on the impacts, and creating a range of budget cutting options, include potential impacts and the benefits for each, assess how proposed cuts will affect students, staff, and the community. And the most important one of all is to communicate transparency by keeping the community informed, explain rationale behind the decisions and expected outcomes. I believe if the board follows these processes, then the board can make better informed decisions that reflect the community's values while prioritizing the students' needs.
Please share what you see as the most important priorities for Berlin Public Schools to ensure that an equitable education is offered to all students. Ms. Deanna will answer first.
Thanks. To ensure that an equitable in Berlin Public Schools, the most important priorities to me are support services, expand access to mental health services, counseling, and academic support to address the varied needs of all students. Community engagement, fostering a strong partnership with families to ensure that the voices of all community members are being heard. Early intervention programs, implementing programs that identify and support at-risk students early on and ensuring that they receive the help that they need to succeed academically. And data-driven decisions, utilizing data to monitor student progress and adjusting strategies according to any inequities. And by prioritizing these areas, Berlin Public Schools can work towards creating a more equitable educational environment for all students.
So our priorities, so I think the first is making sure that Berlin Public Schools continues to be a school district that parents and families want to send their kids to. And one way of doing that is making sure that we have plenty of options and opportunities for all students, all diverse learners. Whether that's your shop classes, internships, special education programs, different extracurriculars, sports, clubs, so on and so forth. What are we offering to students so they're excited to come to school, so they want to be here, so they can thrive as their individual self? So continuing to have funding to have options and opportunities for all learners to do well. Special education funding and funding for other programs to meet the needs of all of our students. I think having favorable class sizes. When classes get too big due to budget cuts, it's too much for some students to learn in that environment, and it's too challenging for teachers to teach in that environment. And then it has a trickle-down effect on administration, and then because then they're dealing with bigger issues. So I think favorable class sizes, and then just making sure that as we talk about every budget season, we look at people and programming, and that is what our budget, like 80% of our budget covers, are people and programs, and we need to make sure that we continue to maintain all of our people and all of our programs so all of our students have access to an excellent education.
How will you balance your own personal and political beliefs with fellow members who may disagree with you? And how do you recommend the board handles these differences of opinions? Ms. Dennis will answer first.
So I think I mentioned this in the question that was previously asked, question 1, about qualities for a board member, is civility. I think if we all come to the table with civility as a forefront, then that can be done easily. My opinions and beliefs do not represent the Berlin community. They're going to drive certain decisions I make, but as I spoke of earlier, continuing to expand my perspective. I think making sure that the board, we all sit at a table where we are respecting and appreciating different perspectives, perceptions, beliefs, that is okay. Having a board of 9 people who all believe the same thing, there's really no point of having a board. We need to engage in discourse, hear other people's opinions and thoughts, and maybe that will help us understand something a little bit differently than we have not been able to before. However, when people do not follow the protocols that are set forth in our bylaws, and there's a process to take. So I think just making sure that all the board members understand that we do have a policy on civility, whether it's people coming to our board meetings and approaching the board or the members sitting around the table. We have to be civil. Personally, I know that my political beliefs and my personal beliefs are not what everyone else believes, and I truly honor and respect differing opinions. And it's okay to hear an opposing viewpoint. It's not, if you're not with me, you're against me. I'm gonna try and understand why you believe that, and I would hope you would do the same for me. So I think instilling that around the table, because we're all sitting around the table, we all want to do what's best and right for our community, and helping others see that as well.
Yeah, so open communication, to me, that's number 1, right? We have to be able to have good communication where all members feel comfortable expressing their views. Being an active listener is crucial to understanding differing perspectives. Focusing on common goals keeps discussions centered on the primary mission of the board, which is to provide quality education for all students in Berlin. That is why we are all here, isn't it? By emphasizing shared objectives, helping to inform discussions, and reducing misunderstanding. And last but not least, having a constructive dialogue to encourage constructive discussions where differing opinions are seen as opportunities for growth rather than conflicts. So that is a common middle ground. So that way a common middle ground is met. And by implementing these different strategies, the Board of Education can handle differences of opinion constructively, which ensures that all voices are heard while maintaining a focus on the best interests for all our students.
This concludes our questioning of the candidates. At this time, we invite each of you to present a 3-minute closing statement. Ms. Deanna, you may begin.
So I want to just continue ensuring that all students in Berlin get the best quality education that they can. My experiences have equipped me with the skills to listen, to collaborate, to advocate effectively for our schools. That way all students can thrive. I ask for all your support to trust and serve on the to trust me to serve on the Board of Education, and I look forward to working together to build a brighter future for our students here in Berlin, Connecticut.
So I will conclude with, I love serving our community and I love being a member of the Board of Education. I find it very fulfilling and rewarding, and I think it's really, really important. When I started serving the board 9 years ago, I did not have children. I wasn't married. I was engaged to a lifelong Berlin resident whose mother taught in Berlin for 47 years. She retired once I had my second child, but you know, this is a town with a lot of pride, and I am so proud that this is where I call home for the past 13 years. I'm dedicated to the success of our school district, and I am dedicated to navigating and conquering the challenges that may present themselves when I least expect it, because it's about the student, and it's about the school district, and it's about our greater community. You know, what I do serving on the Board of Education is for the students. It's for all the students who attend Berlin Public Schools who can't vote, or whose parents trust me to make a vote, or trust me to advocate. So, you know, this is something I am passionate about. I'm an advocate for education. I'm a supporter of public education, and I am really proud of Berlin Public Schools and our community. But I would like to thank the students who put this on tonight. You guys did do a great job. I know a lot of planning went into this, and Mr. Kronk, thank you for, you know, coordinating it and teaching them. This is a really great experiential learning opportunity for them to engage in, and you guys did an excellent job, so thank you so much.
Once again, we want to thank all of the candidates and the audience, both in person and at home, and to everyone who helped make this event possible. We hope the information shared tonight helps the voters of Berlin to make an informed decision on Election Day. Have a wonderful evening, and please drive home safely. Thank you.